With all of the craziness in Warhammer 40K, we often focus on either the Horus Heresy, or we focus on the current battles in Warhammer 40K, but there's also a lot of major battles that took place in between them that we often forget. Some of them have been recently covered by Adeptus Ridiculous and a few other places like that, but I found at least 5 major battles that hadn't been addressed yet, so I wanted to bring them up with you guys today to kick off Season 3 of Readers of War Game. If you guys haven't already, make sure you guys like and subscribe. We have a lot of really, really cool stuff coming in 2026 that I think you guys are going to really enjoy because it's new and very unique. So make sure you ring the little bell down below. That will notify you anytime we have anything new coming up. But let's dive into it with the first battle. So weirdly enough, a lot of these battles don't have a lot of actual lore behind them. They're often just referenced in a book somewhere, or more importantly in codexes in a few different places, but you don't get a lot of details. And I'm hoping that, just like Games Workshop is doing with the Scouring after the Horus Heresy, they'll keep working their way through it. We also have the War of the Beast and the Siege of Vrax are the 2 major ones that we have actual lore for, but we're missing a lot of major ones. And that's very true with this next one. Now, with the way Games Workshop works, they write their lore as if they're in-universe. So having this suppressed makes some sense, although they're pivoting away from that so that they can flesh out a lot of the details of the galaxy itself, and I do appreciate that. It gives us a lot more cool, in-depth stuff that we can talk about that we haven't yet. The story that stood out to me the most is the War of the Lost Primarch. This is a really unique battle that we don't have a ton of foundation on. If you go to the wiki pages on it, it's maybe 2 or 3 paragraphs long. All we know is that there was a rise of a false Primarch somewhere along the lines, and it led to the suppression of several Space Marine chapters, including the annihilation of several. We don't know details on which chapters were annihilated, what was lost. There's a lot of speculation that it was part of the Imperial Fists and a few other places along there. And the Ultramarines are the ones doing a lot of the suppression. That's why there's so many more Ultramarine successor chapters compared to everyone else. It's a very gray area in the lore, and I'm hoping that they get to it. It does take place in M34. It puts it somewhere in between the Horus Heresy and modern 40K, which leads to a lot of room to do what you want. And it's something that I think you could build off of even more, especially if you want to flesh out the Chaos Space Marine depths. I suspect a lot of these annihilated chapters do have survivors that have broken into the Eye of Terror and are currently surviving there, probably serving one of the Chaos Gods, maybe are part of the Black Legion though. It depends on which ones you're looking for. But I do love that this also opens up for a lot of customization when it comes to Chaos Warbands as well, so that you can have a lot more of your Chaos Warband, as well as a potential False Primarch, maybe a real one, maybe Alpharius, we don't know. So that is probably one of the ones that intrigued me the most, that made me want to create this video in the first place, because it is such a unique battle and war that was fought, and we know pretty much nothing about it. Now, if you have other lore sources that I probably wasn't able to find, let me know in the comments below. There's probably some codex somewhere that you can't really find digitally that has a lot more details. If that's the case, please tell me. I would love to find more on this, but I suspect there's not going to be a ton. But throughout all this lore diving and learning about all this war and chaos, I had to keep my energy up. It was a lot of research to get this video done. And in order to do that, I had to focus with our next sponsor, W Energy. Oh, sorry about that. Just enjoying a nice clean W Energy. It's our new sponsor on this channel that I'm super, super excited to have involvement with. They're a clean energy company that specializes in unique flavors and a bunch of different varieties of products. In the past, I've had some health problems in my life, and I've become very particular about what I take in. And unfortunately, in the energy world and in the hydration and electrolyte world, it's pretty hard to actually be super detailed without spending a ton of money. And that's why I enjoy W. They're very clean and healthy alternative to your big energy drinks like Monster. But on top of that, they're actually designed with electrolytes. They also come with the electrolyte-specific version called W Hydro that is also a big part of what I take in. So I would definitely recommend checking them out at w.gg. And if you use code WARGAME, you can get 10% off any of your purchases. I also have a link down below in the description so you can go check out their starter pack. The next battle that I wanted to talk about took place about 1,000 years later during M35, and that is called the Pale Wasting. This is another one that we don't know a lot about lore-wise. There's a lot of speculation about this one, which I do like, but the details are sparse. All we're told is there was a devouring alien presence that consumed several star systems near the edge of the galaxy. They were eventually pushed back by several different Space Marine chapters. It's speculated that a lot of them were the White Scars, because that's typically where the White Scars play, is out on that fringe, where they can move quickly and deal with enemies that either are encroaching on the galaxy or are scattered throughout the remnants that weren't really dealt with during a Great Crusade. Because of the brutality of this war, the Imperium actually ended up sealing off this sector of the galaxy, leaving a couple Space Marine chapters to cordon it off and deal with it, but no one knows anything about it. They don't know what the alien species was, they don't know what actually killed everyone, how quickly it happened, and why it was so dangerous. Nowadays, it's believed that this was one of the first contacts with Tyranids. There are several other incursions in the early M33, M34 range that are also speculated to be Tyranids as well, but this is one of the most common ones that's pointed to as that first major incursion of one of the Hive fleets. We don't know if it's a different Hive fleet that was actually destroyed, or if it's a Hive fleet that may be hunkering down and building up strength in order to press out of that region. We don't know. And I kind of hope that Games Workshop is setting this up as something to happen in the future. The next round, Tyranids become one of the major players in an edition. It would be cool to see a different Hive fleet bust out of there with different genetic variants and give some really, really cool lore to that, as well as giving us some Space Marine chapters that we may not know about. It could be a lot of fun to really get some of your more typical flyers, as well as some go-fast Tyranids, and have them counter your White Scars or your bikes and jump pack units. So this one, once again, we don't know a ton about it, but I kind of wonder if the entire reason it's cordoned off is because they've taken out a lot of the higher beings in the Hive fleet. So everything's just kind of running wild and rampant and devouring things, including each other. And the Imperium's kind of just hoping that they'll just eat themselves out and be done with it. And then eventually they can push in and clean it out. It's also potential that they had to use Exterminatus on several planets in a single system or several systems in the area, which if rogue traders and the Imperium found out that they had been that brutal to that many worlds, it may be bad press and cause a lot of issues politically for them. So we don't really know. We don't know what caused it. We don't really know what the alien species was. There's no real reference as far as I could see. And just like the last one, if you have more lore on this, please let me know. This is one of the lore deep dives I would love to do. So if there are books and stories that go into more detail on the Pale Wasting, please let me know. I would love to do more research and maybe do an entire video on it with the Space Marine chapters that were involved. I'm sure there's Imperial Guard involved as well as whatever those aliens were, especially if they were Tyranids. The third battle is one that we actually do have a decent amount of lore on. I'm not going to go into detail with it, but it's one that actually set the stage for Karn the Betrayer and several others, and that is the Khornate Incursion of Scalathrax. Now, this battle is infamous for two reasons. The first being that this is a chaos on chaos battle. It's the Emperor's Children versus the World Eaters. And this is the first time we really see Khorne's control become unstable for the World Eaters and push them above and beyond their ability to control their bloodlust. They go so crazy in this fight that they do end up pushing off the Emperor's Children, but during this fight, their bloodlust becomes so insane that they actually turn on each other and begin to fight each other. And the World Eaters go from one of the largest legions at the time to one of the smallest and most thinned out. Nowadays, a lot of the Space Marines who serve Khorne are actually pulled from several of the other Space Marine legions, whether it be the Black Legion. We also see some pulled from the Iron Warriors as well. So it's very rare that you'll actually see a true World Eater left in the Servants of Khorne and the modern tabletop World Eaters. It's kind of similar to what we see with the Imperial Fists, where those Imperial Fists gene seed, while yes, they do stem from Dorn, aren't the standard passed down from generation to generation Imperial Fists, because those were all lost in the War of the Beast. And yes, Imperial Fist fans, I know you just want to pretend like that never happened, because the books aren't great. They are not. And what happens in them is kind of weird and doesn't really make complete sense sometimes, but that is the lore, and we have to live with it. For all of you guys who may not be aware, it's a weird one, for sure. Adric does an entire 4-episode journey of the War of the Beast. Go check it out. That video is good. The books are not. First one's not terrible. I didn't mind that one as much, but it spirals out of control quickly, and it does a lot of weird stuff that I'm not a huge fan of. So, yeah, it's not one we're going to talk about today, because frankly I don't like it. And Edric just did a really cool video series on it that I think covers the War of the Beast pretty well. But getting back to the Khornate Incursion, this left both the Emperor's Children and the Servants of Khorne very weakened in early M32, I believe. We're not really given an exact date on it, because this happens in the Eye of Terror, where time really doesn't matter that much, or it's in flux so much that it doesn't really matter if we were to try and date it like we would in the Imperium. But because of this, it does lead to a lot of instabilities, leadership issues. It leads to the world leaders fracturing into several different war bands to go do their own things in their own ways in their own times and whatever they want. Nowadays, one of the few people who can actually bring them all to the table is not their Primarch. It is Abaddon. Abaddon is really good at giving motivation to the world leaders to actually go into battle, and because of that, we do see them a lot inside the Black Legion itself, as well as serving him in the 13th Grand Crusade. That being said, for the Khornate Incursion of Scalathrax, there is actually a pretty good book on this one. It does cover some of the details, and I'm sure as part of the scouring, this will probably be brought into it as well, so that it fits in that same general time frame and timeline, where we get to see chaos kind of falling apart from what they were during the Horus Heresy. This next battle is actually one that I thought was really interesting. I hadn't heard of it, hadn't heard the lore, but it's called the Hraxian Heresy. The Hraxian Heresy takes place in a system called Hrax, where the Forge World and several of the worlds around it decide to walk away from the Imperium, first for independence and then eventually drift into chaos and become full heretics. And unlike most situations like this, there are several different Imperial Guard units around there, but there are no Space Marines anywhere nearby. So the Hraxian Heresy is suppressed, not by means of Exterminatus or Space Marine invasion. It's ended by the Guard, and just the Guard. The Guard scores up against the Dark Admech, as well as other Chaos Guard units, and this leads into a massive bloody fight with a lot of lives lost between the two sides, but the Imperium ends up gaining control back purely by Guard alone, and it's one of the moments that Guard often holds up as a proud staple for themselves. Now, this was another one that I didn't find a ton of lore on, but I did find enough to think it was really interesting, and I would love to read more about it. So, just like everything else, if you're aware of where more lore can be found, please let me know in the comments below. Or if this interests you and you want to see a full video on it, let me know as well. I will try my best to deep dive it so that I can give you guys the videos you guys are wanting. So, as we start the new year, I'm looking to do something really fun on this channel that may be a little bit different for everybody. I am a professional author, as you can see by the first books in each of my series up there. I'm also a Warhammer aficionado, which you can see from all of my armies over here. And the fact that you can't even see half of them because they're on the other side of the room and out of the screen. So I want to combine my loves for storytelling and Warhammer. So starting in January, we're going to be doing a new series on the channel called My Lore. This series is going to be about your custom Space Marine faction, your Votan army, whatever it may be. I want to talk about your lore, and I'm going to write a short story in it, and we're going to read it out and have a lot of fun with it on the channel. So if you want to do a lore-accurate army list based on your Space Marine chapter, or your custom faction, your custom Eldari craft world, or whatever it may be in the Warhammer universe, let me know in the comments below, and I'll reach out to you on DMs to get more information on your factions. The very first one we're going to do is the Channel Army, which is the Night Wardens, and House Hestia, which you can kind of see some of the armatures. I'm still in the process of painting and basing those right now, so the big knights will be coming as well, and hopefully by the time we get there, they will be painted and we can do a full army breakdown with the actual knights that are involved. I make no promises though, that may be a little fast. Painting knights is going to take a while, and I don't know if I'm confident enough to tackle them yet as a painter. I've tackled some big stuff like Magnus, but that is a lot of big surfaces, so we're going to try it out and see what happens. I've done well in the armatures, so that gives me a little bit more hope, but we'll see. But with all that said, I want to know about your faction. If you've got a custom Space Marine chapter, if you've got just a Space Marine chapter that already exists, but you want to put your own twist on it, it's a separate company that hasn't been covered by lore, let me know. That's what I want to talk about. We're still going to be doing lore accurate lists. I've got a bunch of cool stuff coming for the Eldar. We've got stuff in the works for the Iron Warriors. Still trying to hunt down a book for that one. And we've got a bunch of other cool lore accurate lists coming that I am hoping to get out here pretty soon, either later this year or into the start of next year. But over the next month or so, I'm going to be collecting stories from you guys so that we can talk about them probably about once a month throughout 2026. If this is something you guys are interested in, let me know in the comments below. If you think it's cool, let me know in the comments below as well. If you hate the idea, let me know in the comments below as well. We've got a lot of really cool stuff that we're working on, so let's get back to the video so you can keep enjoying the show. The final battle on this top 5 battles that you need to know about list is the Ghost War of Cyrene. This is the lore that I actually learned beforehand. It really makes me hate the Alpha Legion. Now, Alpha Legion fans, you will say literally the exact opposite. If you like the Alpha Legion, this is exactly why you like the Alpha Legion. In this, there is a shadow conflict between two branches of the Imperium that escalates into actual warfare. And it leads to a full purge of several different factions on the planet of Cyrene, where there is massive devastation and destruction, and the entire region becomes completely unstable and susceptible to chaos incursion. But that's not what actually happened. The loss of life happened, but in reality, there was no rebellion, there was no heresy. Both sides were told that the other side was the heretics and rebels. And we learned that this entire thing was orchestrated exclusively by the Alpha Legion. They were pulling strings on both sides, causing them to fight each other, thinking that the other one was a heretic and they were rebelling against the Imperium, when in reality, both of the sides were on the same team the entire time and believed they were fighting for the exact same cause against each other. So, this is the type of stuff throughout history that I hate. I hate when there's duplicity and deception purely for duplicity and deception's sake. I know the Alpha Legion, that is the entire thing they're satirizing. That is their entire point for existence. And this is also why I hate them. They are my least favorite Legion, period. And that is saying a lot. But of the 18, they are my 18th favorite. They are the bottom of the list. Honestly, I might actually put them at 20th, and the two Forgotten Primarchs at least have potential. But for those of you who do enjoy this duplicity and cunning, the Ghost War for Cyrene is a great example of what the Alpha Legion brings to the table and why they are as popular as they are amongst players. because their ability to shape the battlefield and change the battlefield and change the way everyone's reacting to each other is exactly what makes the Alpha Legion unique. So let me know in the comments below if you know of any of these other forgotten battles. There are a lot of them. I haven't covered all of them yet. There's a few that we'll be covering, like the Siege of Vrax. That one is actually going to be my lore accurate list for February, so make sure you check that out. We're also going to be doing some new things with it as well, including bringing your armies to life. Next week will be the first time we're going to be doing that. We're going to be doing it with our chapter army, the Night Wardens, as well as their companions. So make sure you guys come check that out. There's a short story written for them that gives you some lore background. We'll be doing an army list and cover it in detail so that you guys can know what army you guys helped me create through polls that happened in 2025. I think you guys are going to really enjoy that one. So make sure you guys ring the notification bell so you're notified as soon as that video comes out next week. And once again, do not forget to like and subscribe. We have a lot of cool stuff coming. And finally, we have a Patreon. I have changed the tiers on the Patreon so that you have a lot more options, as well as a lot more potential rewards for whichever tier you're wanting to join. We're looking to create a community there where we can talk about lore accurate lists, we can talk about videos that you guys want to see, we can talk about the deeper lore of Warhammer 40K, as well as we can create a community that'll help you get the most enjoyment out of Warhammer, as well as other tabletop games, as well as the books and novels, so that you can really enjoy Warhammer 40K with all of its bells and whistles and what you're wanting to get out of it. And finally, we have to give one big shout out to W Energy. They've been a sponsor for quite a while. They were our original sponsor, and I love working with them and I love using their products. So make sure you check that out. All the links will be in the description below, and I will see you guys next time.